Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen Stark. With me this week, Nessie, and would you believe it, here on time is Jonathan.
Although I was running late.
You were a
which
couple of
is
minutes late.
which is in keeping with
Right.
And he sat by the window,
We just found it so hard to start the stream without Jonathan here, you know?
The commentary just wouldn't be the. You know who would like to talk about this movie? Jonathan.
Okay, so yeah, in case you haven't guessed, we're talking about this movie right here, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, or as I will call it from now on, Dad Hat.
Dad Hat.
I love it.
Oh my goodness!
You know,
that is an abbreviation I can get behind. You all know
poor John with Hot D for an entire season of television. I figured the best I can do is troll myself with this one.
But that's a good one, Dad Hat.
Dad Hat. It's a fun one. I like it. Yeah. So yeah, this movie was this movie. There is a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about, but I'm actually much more interested to hear what John has to say first, as like not a D&D player at all. And then also interested to hear what Nessie has to say as somebody who plays a good amount of D&D now, but isn't steeped in the lore as much. So yeah.
I skipped a few generations.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like that, you know?
Be like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say though, I've been exposed to it enough that, you know,
you've had a taste.
Yeah, that I can like share in, if not the details of the lore and stuff like that, at least the spirit of the game. I get it. You know, I think if I was coming to this completely blind, I wouldn't appreciate certain things. But
you're also something of a cinephile. So like looking at this from a sort of cinematic point of view is going to be interesting to hear about as well.
Well, it's funny. And when we were talking about the other night, it was like I was appreciating certain things for like the sort of cinematic tropes, you know, angle. And you're like, and that's also like a trope of the game. And, you know, so on some levels, not too dissimilar. But no, I went to the movies. I actually got to see this in the theater just last week. It was the last week the movie was showing, and then I rewatched it today on Paramount Plus, which was convenient. No, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Maybe even more so on my second viewing. Because I knew like exactly what the movie was, and I always love second viewings because you're able to sort of tune into like character beats, and
foreshadowing is always better on the second time around too, you know.
And no, I really enjoyed it. The only caveat that I'll offer is, and I don't mean this harshly, it's all in good fun, but I do kind of wish you hadn't told me a detail about Jonathan going in, because I feel like the joke would have landed even better. But I still thoroughly enjoyed the intro. It's beautiful.
My apologies for a minor spoiler there. And AR, unfortunately, yes, you already did miss us riffing about Jonathan a little bit. So
you missed
at the end, just go back and watch the first couple of minutes. It's literally the first like thing we do.
But no, I love that because I actually didn't. You guys had built that up so much, I didn't know if it was a running joke throughout the movie, and then I'm like, oh no, it just it's right here off the top. And no, I loved it. But no, the movie overall there were so many things that I enjoyed, which we'll get into. And I think I'd kind of share this with you, Stev, because I think I think you mentioned this. It was so great to see Michelle Rodriguez get something to,
You on.
the lead role, and had a great character arc, and it's because I've been a fan of hers for a long time, ever since Lost.
Hmm. Well, she's just great in general.
Mhm.
I think she has the disadvantage of being so good at what she does that she just gets pigeonholed into these, just tough guy roles, so to speak. And let's be real, Holga's tough, but there's so many more layers to that character, which.
Yeah.
But I do love seeing Michelle Rodriguez kick ass. So
Yeah, and she sells the hell out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, Matthew, this one was so good. I mean, really, and I know you're a D&D player, so you'll
Yes,
appreciate
I
it
see.
just for how it feels right. But yeah, when you get a chance, do check it out.
I will say it was the only thing the movie was missing was a really hammy performance by Jeremy Irons. Sorry, I had to.
Right. Look, you are fully within your rights to riff on that. What is it, 2001 movie or something? It's like 2000,
Mhm.
early 2000s, and it is bad. It's a bad movie. Okay, the
It's
Yeah.
staging
terrible.
is bad. The writing is bad. The acting, the editing, it's all bad. And that's what this movie does right. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think that it does anything amazing, but everything it does well.
Well, it's like, I'm trying to put this in a way that isn't doesn't come off as insulting, because I don't mean it to be at all, but it's not trying to be high art.
No, it's
So
not.
No.
it's just a really it's a fun popcorn movie in the truest sense, and
Yes.
a damn fine one at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So
don't
Exactly.
think anybody's arguing that this is Oscar bait,
yeah, exactly. Like it's not trying to be, and it doesn't need to be, and
Mhm.
but what's underappreciated, and I always hate when people say, like, for like fun summer movies, it's like, oh, who cares? It's just a popcorn movie. Just leave your brain at the door, and don't worry about it. And they use that as a crutch to excuse bad, like,
Mm-hmm.
blockbuster movies. This is an
Mhm.
example of a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
It is.
you can be a really well crafted, fun blockbuster type movie, and that's what I feel this is. And
Mm-hmm.
um
What
so yeah.
genre would you say this film is? Like, if you walk into Blockbuster,
Mhm.
what
Where would you go?
section should you look in for this film?
I mean, like, I could put it in
If you-
fantasy, action, or even comedy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'd put it in action adventure, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Doesn't
And
take itself too seriously.
I mean, it does though. I think it takes itself
It
very
in the
seriously.
in the right ways, and
Yes.
Yes.
The
but
world they
also
live in is the world. It's their home. It matters to them.
and we've been talking lately also about, and I forget the term you had for it. It's when humor undercuts
It's called
serious.
bathos. It's like
Yeah,
bad bathos.
this movie does that at times, but it doesn't at other times, where it
Mhm.
plays like emotional moments very sincerely, but then you've got moments like, guard this with your life.
I will.
I will. Here, hold this.
Right.
It does it in the way that the reason why I love the film Serenity so much, as well as Firefly, is because they do it, but they know when to employ that.
Yeah, if you do it all the time, then the audience always expects it, and they never buy into the heavy emotional moments.
Exactly.
This movie does it some, but not all the time. And it lets its emotional moments just be emotional, which is a sign that the writers have confidence that the audience will get it.
Yes.
Again, I think this is actually a really expertly crafted movie. Again, not like it's gonna win any Oscars or anything, but like, what's wrong with it? One bad CG potato?
Maybe? I don't even know.
Look, there is one bad CG potato in this film, and it's in a slow-mo close-up. Like, okay, it is what it is.
I will not have you speak ill of Holga's potatoes. Okay. No, if you want me to get, my a quibble out of the way, it would probably be that I would have liked, and I get it, that's, she fulfills her role in the movie, but I would have liked, what's her name, Safina. I would have liked her to have a bit of more explored character, because I think there was interesting material to mine there, potentially. But
if there's a sequel, it will have that Pam in it. And given that Safina is actually an undead necromancer, it is not so easy to kill that which is already dead. To quote Zank Yendar, who will talk. We should talk about individual characters for this movie, because I feel like that's the better way than to go chronologically. Because a D&D party is about the characters.
Can I just, I'll just say he, might be, he might end up being one of the sort of undervalued parts of this movie just because he plays the lead. But I have nothing but love for Chris Pine, because he's just like, he's so naturally a leading man, and there's a reason for that. He is like, this is the guy who came into the role of Captain Kirk and killed it, and which is no easy feat for somebody to step into that, and pretty much almost every. He's one of those actors that I guess you could kind of criticize for the fact that you could say he's always playing Chris Pine in a way, but but the actors who
this movie needed.
Yeah. No, I just love everything he brought, and there's that bit where the other character is like, "What is it you bring to this?" And he's like, "I plan. I'm a planner." And he's great, because he has that. He brings an emotional weight to it. You feel what he's been through, but he's also funny, and So I loved him. So I think actors who do that sort of, he's the protagonist and he's sort of fulfilling that role. They're easy to overlook in more ensemble pieces, but I thought he did a great job.
Danny, the answer to this question is very difficult to give a straight answer to. I'm going to assume you're talking about 5th edition rules, because that changes things. I will say, if Simon is counterspelling a time stop at the end of the film, he's probably 17th level, which is incredibly high level.
Yeah.
If he's that high, like, the movie plays fast and loose with the mechanics of the game. Okay.
Yes. Especially the magic.
I'm the first, like, as somebody who knows the rules in and out, I'm a professional dungeon master. Hire me. I'll run your D&D game. Like, you have to take the rules of the game and just get rid of it and realize that what they're taking is the flavor of the game. So I feel like this is the type of adventure I would put up against characters who are not 17th level, but maybe 12, 13, because of all the different things they face along the way. Red Wizards are no joke. Let's be honest. The High Sun Games looks pretty crazy. Although I will say, mimics and displacer beasts and gelatinous cubes are dangerous monsters, but they're not that dangerous for characters of high level, which ostensibly they are. Also, like, the bard isn't casting spells at all anywhere in this film. So, like, you've got to understand that it's not following the rules of the game. It's taking the flavor of the game and telling the story, and it has the flavor, and it has also the right skin on it. Like, Neverwinter is a place that I have had adventurers go to over a decade ago. Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, these places are both name dropped. We don't see them, but they're name dropped, and they're big, important cities in the Sword Coast. Like, you've got Neverwinter, and then down the coast you've got Waterdeep, and then down the coast from there you've got Baldur's Gate. And yeah, and it's called Neverwinter because despite being in the north, the river is fed by hot springs, which keeps the harbor from icing over year round. My characters have lived in islands off the Sword Coast, so it was neat on that level, but like, they're not relying on, hey, look, it's Waterdeep, or hey, look, it's Neverwinter. Oh, look at all the. I mean, it's cool that Neverwinter is there, but they're not relying on it being Neverwinter to be the interesting thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of lore that they can mine because it was meant to feel like a real place, like.
Yeah, Revel's End is actually is a canon location now, but it was made for the movie. The prison was like basically written into the game world for the benefit of this film, which is kind of cool.
Interesting, because one of my D&D games, we're getting ready to break somebody out of Revel's End. So when it popped up in the movie, I was like, ah,
yeah.
We're doing that. So that was pretty cool. We're playing in Icewind Dale, which is where Revel's End is, like the end of the earth, where it's like frigid cold and
also
nasty. Yeah.
John, let me ask you: Did anything confuse you? Did anything not make sense?
No, never. It all felt like. It's like there was nothing that was ever referenced in the world where I was like, what's that about? It just felt like it was set in this larger world, but the story that was actually being told was very, like, easily accessible.
The way Star Wars did it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll mention a place, but like, if it's not central to the story, we're not going to Neverwinter. Oh, you mean the place where blah 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 blah?
Yeah, it doesn't depend on your knowledge of places or things. Things are mentioned, things that probably went over my head, because I don't know about that. But never was that information required for me to get an understanding of what was going on. So, yeah.
So I counted 5. Well, 4 at least, and maybe a 5th, I'm not sure about, unique monsters to Dungeons & Dragons in this movie. The owlbear was invented for D&D.
Mm-hmm.
The gelatinous cube. Mm-hmm. The displacer beast, which is the panther that casts illusion from its weird tentacles. Mm-hmm. The mimic, which is so ubiquitous that you find it in, like, Final Fantasy now. The mimic being the treasure chest that tries to eat you.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. And then the Axebeak might be a D&D original as well. You've seen Axebeak a couple of times. It's that, flightless bird with a big axe-like beak, and crazily enough.
Like an ostrich with an attitude.
Yeah. Okay, let's start talking about some individual characters. Somebody pick somebody. You go first, not me. Okay.
I'm just going to start off with, even though we mentioned it briefly, I'm going to start off with my namesake, because that was
Okay.
because that was an absolutely brilliant way to open the movie, and close to my heart, because I love the fact that practical effects were used in this movie, and the fact that, you know, Jonathan is animatronic.
The wings are animatronic. Probably the face as well. But it's a guy in a suit.
Yeah, and no, it's just so great because and objectively speaking, if a certain somebody hadn't tipped me off to this fact, sorry, I'm just teasing. You're not expecting that to be Jonathan. It's like, you know, this whole time it's this whole buildup of you just think that, you know, it's like, I'm wondering, like, what kind of system is this council run on? Like, it's somebody they know, or are they chummy with, you know, one of the higher ups, or does it cycle out like former prisoners or onto the council or something like that? And because I'm expecting Jonathan to be one of their
a friend.
I'm like, so how does this all work? And then the payoff for that, where they're just gonna,
I thought it was brilliant because of the way they name dropped that character over and over and over again. Made him seem so important, and it's literally just so you can throw him out the window.
They did a great job. They fooled me because, you know, while they're keep name dropping Jonathan, they're also doing a lore dump, which is
the overly complicated backstory.
And you're just waiting for, okay, so I'm thinking, of course, maybe Jonathan is somebody from the old crew or whatever, and then no,
it's the Birdman that we can fly out of the window with.
No, and it's a great way to tell the, you know, and that's why the way that started off, I wasn't sure how the backstory was gonna go. Like, I thought that, is he gonna tell the full story of what happened, you know, over the course of this movie? And Jonathan is going to be a character that comes in like at the very end of the movie and plays some big important role.
No. Jonathan exists to get knocked out twice in this movie. That's why he's there.
And
why he's there.
Yeah, no, and I love just I just love everything about the reveal too. Just and I cracked up because I've heard so often, you know, you guys all go Jonathan, and so I love when, you know,
or also Jonathan.
Yeah, no, no, the way she goes, oh, Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan.
I love this. See, this is why I love this movie. It just makes you laugh because it's so dumb. But when it's like, we need to have heart, they have heart.
Yeah.
Like the stuff between Chris Pine and I don't know the actress's name who plays his daughter. Kira is the character's name.
Chloe Coleman.
Okay. Sorry?
Chloe Coleman.
Okay, Chloe. Mwah. You are my like unexpected star of this movie. She was so good in this, y'all. If you get a chance to watch again, pay attention to the subtle things that she's doing throughout in her interactions with Chris Pine, and especially in her interactions with Michelle Rodriguez. She's nailing it, y'all. And like, there's a scene where Edgin, her dad, is talking to her, and it turns out not to be her. It turns out to be Safina, basically shapeshifted into her. And she goes into this laugh, and at some point it morphs between the two of them. And the CG is weird and creepy in that moment, but that young actress is selling the hell out of that scene. Gosh, she's so good in this, y'all. I'm telling you, that kid's going places.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, and Safina is played by Daisy Head, who was in an episode of Sandman in the she was in the diner episode.
Okay.
And so she's a really, which is why I kind of wanted a bit more material from her. But I mean, I get it. She fills the role.
She's the bad guy. It is what it is. She's terrifying.
Yeah. And yeah, she's one half of the antagonist in this movie, and the other antagonist is not at all threatening.
No.
which is Forge, played by Hugh Grant.
Dude, how much fun was Hugh Grant having making this movie?
I will say though that it's was really sort of almost disturbing how well he played the kind uncle to Kira, and just like the fact that you could see her, seeing that in him, and it's just diabolical and horrible. But then, of course, when he's actually called upon to, like play, his true form, he's just so hilarious, like such a buffoon, and so much fun.
Yeah. Well, ostensibly he's a rogue, but he's a charisma build, which is rare for a rogue. Most rogues are sneaky dexterity builds. I would actually argue he almost plays more like a bard in a lot of ways, and Chris Pine plays a lot more like a rogue in a lot of ways. So, but that's me like trying to put the game rules back on it, but yeah, it's.
Oh, side note, I love that when Chris Pine sings, he apparently sings with a British accent.
That scene, never mind. We'll get to when we talk about him. We can't even focus on one character right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to focus on one because of how they all are interacting.
Oh,
with each other. They're a crew,
Yeah, and everything they do affects everybody else. I think the character that got the shortest into the sick was actually Doric, played by is her name Sophie Lillis, I think?
So yeah, Sophia Lillis.
Sophia Lillis, yeah. I mean, what she was asked to do, she did fine. She just had the least to do. And I think it's because a lot of her character is CGI shenanigans,
Oh, no. Right. I don't know. I guess I agree that, she's there to fulfill the role she needs to fulfill. But I don't know. I actually, she was one of the funner aspects, maybe because she gets to do so much with the transforming and but yeah, no, I liked her personality and just the way she was, like I can't believe I put my faith in you humans and all that stuff. So yeah, I but this is the thing, like I've been reading up on this a bit, and the fact that the movie wasn't necessarily conceived with any mind of doing a sequel or anything, but I really want to see more with these characters.
Which is what a great way to leave the movie open, but not like set up for the sequel.
Yeah.
And leaving us as the audience going, yeah, go ahead, give me more.
Well, and especially like I did not get nearly enough Zank in this. They tease us with him, and it's like, oh, I get it. So the overpowered guy can't go with you.
Zink is the guy that the dungeon master brings in to get the party through a particularly difficult fight, and then he leaves so that the party can get back to being the main characters in the story. Main characters, but
main characters, yeah.
I love
how like you want to start okay. When we start talking about the tabletop tropes, it's just not going to stop. So we'll save it at least for the second half.
And that's also like a filmmaking thing. It's, you know, it's the same reason why
Gandalf.
But also I very much thought of the Army of the Dead and Return of the King, and the way Gimli's like, you know, about freeing them. He's like, bad idea, very handy in a tight spot, these lads, despite the fact they're dead. And so it's that whole thing of, hey, we've got this super powered individual or army, and why on earth are they leaving? we really need them in the final battle ahead. So, but yeah, there's always and I love the fact that there is no real reason for why he has to go. He's like, oh, what that I could, but this is your request.
He walks in such a perfectly straight line.
It's no, he's going to go over the roof. He's going over it.
That is the most and the thing, oh god, that's a game trope again. Like the super lawful good paladin with no sense of humor, who's practically a stick in the mud. No fun to be around at all. That's an old school D&D trope back from 2nd edition, where paladins had to be lawful good and couldn't associate with people who did bad things. Like they were not fun to play with.
He's like a really, and all apologies to this character for the insult I'm about to throw their way, but he's like a really intelligent version of Drax.
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, he's not that smart.
Well, compared to Drax. Sorry, Drax.
Right.
He's got like an 18 charisma. I mean,
but no, I loved the back and forth between him and Chris Pine, throughout that section of the movie, which is really why I was bummed to see him leave, because that, they had great chemistry together, and just the combativeness back and forth was great. But I get it. The movie, because the focus had to go back on to the other characters for, so.
Yeah, he wasn't one of the main characters.
Right. Yeah. There were 4 main characters.
He was
actually, I would argue by the end there's 5 at the end, because I think Kira is part of the crew by the end.
Definitely.
It wouldn't go down that way at the table, but I could actually see somebody joining a game and Kira becoming their character after Kira was an NPC for a while. That would be fun. But yeah, this movie, you mentioned Chris Pine earlier on, John. This movie, none of it works without him holding down that emotional core. And at the same time, the exact same thing is true of Michelle Rodriguez. Because if she doesn't hold down the emotional weight of her scenes, even from, nobody touches my bug, or the hug when she sees her, all of that stuff builds up, so that at the end, when he's having this moment of because he even says it earlier in the film, I wasn't trying to bring back your mom, I was trying to bring back my wife. It's the same person, but the sentiment behind it is a very different thing. It was selfish to him.
Yeah, it's him. No, I just, and I know that's the end of the movie, so we are jumping all around, but it was just so emotional to me that he makes, he has that realization, and also makes that decision based on the fact that he's going to save her actual mother.
Her actual mom,
yeah, and of course, and earlier, that's what we were talking about with foreshadowing being more apparent on the second viewing, the whole thing with when he's remembering his wife, and the thing with the dragonfly, and where she says, stop trying to catch it, just let it go, and so so he has to let her go.
and he is saving her mom, which is what he set out to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I love all of that. You know, from a narrative standpoint, it's a really nice bow that they wrap it up with.
Yeah.
But Michelle Rodriguez has to carry the emotional weight of every scene she's in, or we won't feel that at the end. And
you need somebody who can really pull off emotional gravitas for us to buy into a scene between former romantic lovers, one of which is a very small Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, and yes, of course, we're all laughing at the beginning of that scene, but
it was a very serious and moving scene.
And like, there was some real emotion there too, and she had to carry it. I mean, she had Bradley Cooper, who is fantastic.
And I will say, like, the first time I saw the movie, or when I went to the movies, I was probably more like chuckling throughout the scene and like, this is like I was buying into, but also very conscious of this is really ridiculous too,
right?
But then when I was watching it today, like, all of that went away, and I was actually just zeroed in on the emotions of the scene. And,
as far as D&D is concerned, it's not that ridiculous. It's not.
Yeah.
Halflings exist, gnomes exist, and people partner with whoever they are adaptable with, I really thought it was kind of fun and a beautiful thing, and like,
he's
got a type,
Yeah, he's got a type. And also it was like foreshadowing, because she was letting somebody from her past go. It's like they had this very adult moving conversation, and if you just closed your eyes and we weren't even looking at who was in the scene and just listened to their voices, it was very, very dramatic and touching.
I just love how sweet and gentle a character he was.
Yeah.
And not holding me. Yeah, he was just very, like, I understand why you would fall for somebody like that. I mean, it doesn't hurt that he looks like Bradley Cooper also, but like, what a sweet heart he had as a character, to end that with like, I'm fortunate to have found a new family, and I want nothing but that for you as well. Do
you think it's been written into Bradley Cooper's contract now that he can only play shorter characters between this and Rocket?
Maybe. I mean, who knows? I'm going to go with probably not, but like, Bradley Cooper's already charming. Then you make him tiny, and you're like, oh, now, because like, it's an inverse square law for cuteness, So if he's half the height, he's twice the cute,
right?
No, and
like, he's so wee.
But I will say my favorite part of that sequence, though, is after Holger goes back outside and she's really down, and then Ed starts,
to her,
saying, and the way she lights up, it just speaks to their relationship, and how close they are, and that they have that brother-sister relationship, and that she's not now. It would be very easy for someone who's coming off of that, a conversation like that, to just be like, I'm not in the mood. Please just shut up. But the fact that, he's so in tune with her. Yeah. And she knows, the degree to which he cares. And so to see her light up in that moment, it was like that, like, if I hadn't already, that's what got me like buying fully into like that relationship in this movie and caring about it. So.
And can I tell you, the best D&D I've ever played has scenes like this in it. Scenes with this real type of emotion in it, which is why we play the game. Yeah, it's cool to be the badass and to jump through the air and stab the dragon in the head. We'll get to that. But yeah, the emotional, the idea of like a character's story meaning something to them and exploring what that means. Like, I would love to have been the dungeon master playing Marleman opposite Michelle Rodriguez's Holga in that scene. Coming into it, knowing hopefully what the player wants, having some idea who Marleman is from their point of view. Oh no, Marleman, he's a sweetheart, and he's, it was really my fault, blah, blah, blah. I would love to play that. I would love to play that scene out. And I haven't played anything exactly like that, but I've had scenes where people yelled at their parents. I've had scenes where people fell in love. Doing a wedding in-game soon. That's going to be fun.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw what Trish said about the non-romantic parental relationship. It really is. It's cool. That, yeah, just dinner for you and your wife. She's not my wife with those lips. Just, so funny.
What's wrong with my lips?
I believe they're too big for his
face. Which, by the way, speaking as someone who's not actually interested in Chris Pine and in general does not go that way, I will say there is nothing wrong with that man's lips.
There really isn't.
Chris Pine is one of those perfect specimens. So. Yeah,
he's a handsome man for sure.
And by the way, somebody asked earlier about the battle of the Chris's. I think this is going to cause some contentiousness, but I do think Chris Pine is probably my favorite of the Chris's. Just going to put that out there.
Okay. I mean, that's a bold statement, but you're allowed to have your opinion. He's a top guy. He's a great. Evans is the only one that might beat him out for me.
Well, of course, I knew you were going to say that.
But big surprise. But I do like, and the thing is, this movie actually elevated him in my estimation a little bit, and Michelle Rodriguez as well. I came out of this going, I mean, I knew they were both good at what they do, but watching them as leads and as co-leads together without having to rely, as Trish said, on a romantic, they didn't have to have that chemistry. They just had to have that brother-sister thing going, which they nailed. They nailed it.
Yeah, and I love that there was never a hint of it. I mean, there were jokes made about it and how they were totally not,
I could kiss
that was not there. Yeah. but there were never any serious hints of anything like that. It's a total brother-sister relationship, and I love that.
I mean, Trish, we were all thinking it. Yeah. But Chris Pine is, yeah.
I mean, hard, but not impossible.
Not impossible, but it's an uphill battle. We got to be honest. Okay, so I loved Holga. I really liked. Okay, let's talk about Simon for a minute. It's a pretty classic. Yeah. You've got to learn to trust yourself type storyline. His spells being terrible are so funny, and he's a wild magic sorcerer. That doesn't mean anything to you, John. I'm sure, but when I heard when I heard Simon Omar, I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait a second. Omar.
There's an Elminster Omar, and then he mentions that he had a famous great grandfather. I'm like, oh wait a minute, we're really doing this, huh? And then my dude shows up on screen, and I'm like, you don't understand. That's the Gandalf of this world. That is the powerful wizard.
Yeah, but was it really him or just the visage?
Me, it was. I mean,
or just the visage of him, because it seemed like ultimately it's the older version.
I think it actually is Elminster, but it's because Elminster is chosen by Mistra, who is the goddess of magic. So he is almost a celestial being now. So I think it really was him, but because also Elminster is a wizard. Simon is not a wizard. Simon is a sorcerer.
sorcerer. Yes.
And like, I don't want to dig too much into what that means game rules wise. A wizard studies to learn their magic. A sorcerer is just born with it. So
yes.
Simon is actually born with innate magic to himself that he's trying to learn how to control and focus. It's not, and that is largely because of his connection to Elminster. I'm 100% sure, given that Elminster is the chosen of Mistress. I almost say Mystara all the time. Mystara is a game world. Mistra is a goddess in the Forgotten Realms.
I will say that, and I get, you know, where you're coming from, because especially as this is a character, you know, from the D&D world, my read on it was that it was actually a future incarnation of Simon himself that was testing him and using the visage of his great-grandfather or whatever.
It's possible. I mean, it could just as easily be it was Elminster testing him, but when he passed the test, he changes his appearance to show him you've been the one in your way the whole time. Yeah. Either one works. But I saw Elminster Omar on screen, and I'm happy about it, okay? Mm-hmm. What happened to that helmet after Simon got captured? That is a really excellent question that I hadn't thought about. Because you're right, they do get captured. They get all their magic items taken away.
Yeah, they went back for it. That's fine.
Well, I imagine it maybe even got loaded into the ship.
Could have with the rest of the horde.
Yep. And so it would have been easy enough for them to grab that before opening the portal to dump all the gold. Which, can I say, okay, no, let's keep it on characters. I'm going to get into like game tabletop shenanigans when we come back. Let's keep it on characters. I thought it was a pretty straightforward, but Justice Smith, who plays the character, was very charming and funny in it. So I believed him the whole time. He's the most powerful one in that party. I have him pegged as the highest level character. It's weird though, because if he's a sorcerer, sorcerers ostensibly are charisma-based casters, and maybe that's what's holding him back from being a super powerful, even though he's high level, because his charisma is
not that great.
Not how that character is portrayed. I mean,
no,
man, don't get me wrong, but
yeah, the fact that he struck out before, he wasn't like
remember me?
His self-confidence.
You said I make you sad. Not anything I did, just who I am. Oof.
Yeah.
And by the way, and if we see these characters return, my guess is that he strikes out again, because I don't see that relationship actually taking off. Good.
You have to have at least a 13 in charisma to be a sorcerer. Maybe he just had to get that.
To multi-class in or out of sorcerer, you need a 13. But there is no minimum requirement. You can have a 6 charisma and be a sorcerer. You'd just be a really bad one.
You'd be really bad at it.
Really bad.
So maybe that's all it was. He had to build up his charisma a bit.
Yeah, he had to get a few ASIs for those of you out there. Okay, so what other characters should we talk about? We talked about Forge a little bit. And to me, this is the most fun Hugh Grant ever had.
No, I've been a fan of Hugh Grant's performances going to way back. I love all his work and like his Sense and Sensibility, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and Love Actually, and all that stuff. So it's just really fun seeing him play,
playing a scoundrel,
complete dirtbag.
Scoundrel.
It's like, I love it. It's like, I'm a con man. What'd you expect? But yeah, it's
he's a charlatan.
Yeah, Guilty Undertaker says, I love how all the characters have fantasy style names, and then there's Simon. Yeah, that's a very D&D thing also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people don't consider their naming convention when they're making their characters. They just name their characters. And some people do, like, have Simon or, like, whatever. That's not the way I name my characters, but some people do.
No, but going back to, for a second to Forge, I just wanted to say I love, like, when, in the flashback, when Chris Pine, throws the thing to me. It's like, watch after Akira, and Hugh's like, I will, and he does this, like, this type of thing, and it's like, you are not authentic in any way, shape, or form.
Because you have my word. Oh yeah, okay, that makes
that's gonna do it. Yeah.
I'm like, he's a traitor. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, John, did you notice the cartoon characters? I'm going to go that you would know.
No.
During the High Sun Games, there's, like, different teams running through the maze, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the teams is, their likenesses are the characters from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from, like, 1983.
Okay.
Wow. That was a heck of a callback.
Yeah, so, like, there's the guy that wears, he was the Cavalier, he wore yellow. You've got the rogue with her blue hood. You've got the African American lady who wears the skimpier green outfit. She's the acrobat. The short kid with the horned helmet that picks up the axe, his name is Bobby.
Wait, so were they live action versions of that, or were
Yes.
they actual, like,
no, live action versions
Okay,
of the characters from that cartoon show from the 80s. And I'm
okay, I thought you
the magician, the little wizard kid with the pointy hat. Yeah,
The
like
wizard.
I thought you meant they were, like, 2D animated characters inserted into
based on the cartoon characters, but
well, in that case, I definitely would not have noticed them because I had no reference point.
Right.
That, so.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't watch that.
People will like at least be aware of the D&D cartoon enough to recognize the characters.
Okay.
But yeah, during the mid-roll, I'll see if I can't find a picture.
I was gonna say I feel like I would have noticed, like, all out, like, animated characters inside the movie. Just that would have been apparent. But no, I think I might have tangentially been aware of the fact that there was a D&D cartoon back in the day, but it's very surface level knowledge.
I'm going to throw up a picture real quick. Do you recognize these characters from the movie? They lock up in the cage at the end.
I'd have to I'd have to look out for them again.
Oh, and the little dungeon master. Oh, it's been so long since I've seen this.
Yeah, but that crew is in the High Sun Games, and when I saw them, because I saw this in the theater, when we saw them, me and Neil and my friend Patrick, who were like 1, 2, 3, right there in the middle of the movie, we're all like, oh, that the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Team.
It was so fun to see. I mean, it's not a very good cartoon show, let's be honest, but, like, I can't change. It doesn't change the fact that I still had my member berries, yum.
I'm willing to bet it was probably better than the 2000 movie, though.
Probably.
Yeah, the unicorn is cute.
Okay, let's do a mid-roll, and we'll come back, and I'm going to start talking about other things. Okay, so what do we do in the mid-roll? We say this is a YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. And, do the comment thing if you're watching afterwards. Leave a comment. Share this with your friend. This movie was great. If somebody wants to hear a few nerds ramble on about how great it is, you should send this to them. Hire me to run your D&D game. If you're interested in D&D, I am a dungeon master for hire. Have very reasonable rates. I'm also available for European-friendly times. So, yeah, bear that in mind. I'm just trying to... I have a pretty good base of games that I run already. I have a lot of good references. Just trying to build it up more. There's a link in the description. John.
Yes.
What are you going to be talking about on J-Wolf, John Webster film, in the not too distant future?
Okay, so first of all, if you missed last night, what did I talk about last night?
Mulan.
Mulan, that's right. I had the birthday stream for AR, which we had been talking about for a couple years doing, and but life got in the way. So yeah, we finally did a stream on that, and AK joined us. We had an amazing time, and which, by the way, then I coaxed AK into joining us for the Zoom afterwards. So that was a lot of fun too.
I slept through the whole thing.
Oh, Stev. No, and next week we're AK is going to be back, and joining us will be Blue Lemons herself, and we're going to be talking about the cinematic classic Street Fighter.
Oh my gosh! Okay. Are you the one with Raul Julia and yeah? Okay.
Yeah, and Van Damme. Yeah, we're going real high art next week. So make sure you guys tune in for that. It'll just honestly, it's just going to be a whole 2 hours of me quoting the movie because when I was younger and I can probably still do it. I just haven't tried in years, but I could recite every single line of this movie.
Okay.
Because part of it was I was such a big Van Damme fan when I was younger, and so. And I was also a big video game fan. So this was colliding those two worlds of my love of Van Damme and the Street Fighter video game. So, yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're also at, as yet undecided point in time, going to be talking about Mortal Kombat as well. So we're really doing the high quality discussions.
Mm-hmm. Early fighting video game adaptations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Okay. Good luck with that.
No, it's going to be a blast.
I'm sure you're going to have fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Also, I want to continue to plug, if anybody hasn't watched it yet, it's now 2 weeks or 2 streams ago, I did a discussion with Aaron on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I'm still plugging it because I'm really excited that it actually happened, that I had a really fun discussion on an MCU movie that I loved. So if you haven't seen that yet, go watch it. But yeah, that's about it.
Taker, I was feeling you on this, man. I'm with you on this. That way, it can be Tuesday. For you, it can be Tuesday.
I know, we just can't.
Yeah. You can't, but like, the joke's right there, and I'm glad you made it. Thank you.
Well, what was so great was last night, AK and I started talking about it during the mid-roll, and then we started quoting the movie and forgetting for a second that we were just in a mid-roll of a completely different stream. So we almost launched into a discussion of the movie right then and there.
Wow.
Because we did the whole Raul Julia when he goes, I guess you didn't see that, did you?
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't remember this movie well enough. I saw it one time and went, that was a movie I watched. I moved on with my life.
And I saw it and said, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, but you were a child, like there's stuff from my childhood that are not good movies, but I loved them anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, let's. I need to. I don't. Yeah. Okay. I got to pull up my my list. because we got to shout out our patrons too, because we love our patrons because they're awesome. Our patrons include our Great Worm Dragon patrons, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, our Alpha patron, and Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, as well as the Elder Dragons of the Realm, the Cloaked One of the Underworld, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, Reflective Rambling, Arch-Maester Emma, Kate, Mistress of the House of Books, Jared Kozal, Doctor of Dragons, Lady Maura Lee of Starfall, and Lady Rita of the Unbound. Thank you, patrons. We love you guys. What else do we need to cram into this mid-roll? I can't think of anything. Nessie, you got anything special coming up? Sometimes you do stuff.
No, I'm just, learning how to be a dungeon master over here. Trying not to
do you know what? You're doing great, though. I'm playing a game with you, and I think you're doing fantastic.
Thank you, Stev.
And you have more than one game going now, too, don't you?
Yep, we're doing Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, which you play in, and we're also having once a month Cthulhu's Days. It's a drop-in game to play one of the most popular role-playing games in the world, Call of Cthulhu. It's amazing. Drop in and play some night. Link in the description.
Right. Hey, if you want to get in on our games, all you need to do is join our Slack group, and you can do that just by sending me an email to this email address right here, we3dragons@gmail.com, 3 spelled out, we3dragons@gmail.com. I'll get you an invite to our Slack group. We have like D&D channel where we do a lot of coordinating. If somebody's got a one-shot or a game that they're just looking to put together, that's a good spot to do it from. Nessie is doing great as a GM. You are correct.
Thanks, guys. I've learned from some good people.
Well, I mean, you definitely have your own style, but like I was happy to be as part of that. Anyway, speaking of dungeon mastering, I watched this movie as though I were a dungeon master. And I can't help it. It's just how it is, Not the whole thing. Obviously, I watched it like it's a movie. But the whole time I'm thinking, what is the dungeon master doing in this situation, right? And what are the players doing? And what is the dungeon master saying happens? And there's so much of that. The big one for me is the hither thither staff. Okay? Because there was it came so out of nowhere and was perfectly exactly what they needed in the moment. As if it was like, oh, I've got this elaborate trap that I worked for 3 weeks to put together, and I've been sitting on it for a month and a half because I'm this elaborate bridge trap, and I'm going to make them do this and that and roll here and there, and then they just break it immediately, and then the dungeon master has to go, well, they need to get over there in order to actually progress the story. What do? I give them the exact thing they need, and then this is what makes it real D&D. They go on to abuse it to make the rest of the adventure way easier on themselves. Which is hilarious to me.
And the DM is always having to counteract it some kind of way. Oh, we got to make this a little bit harder for you now.
Right? Like the whole reason the painting fell over is because the dungeon master's like, enough, guys. At least that's my read on it, And there are several moments. Like Zank is the dungeon master.
Yes, Zank is the dungeon master. He shows up.
He's got the answers. He gets them through the thing they need to get through, and then he leaves.
Oh, which side note, with the excursion that he leads them on, I just love the little bit with the little, brain creatures and they're drawn to beings with high intelligence, and they just walk by.
That's a little hurtful.
That's a little hurtful.
Yeah, that little venture right there was to show that side quests are important. Side quests are important.
And I love too that we did a pudgy dragon. I never see pudgy dragons.
Oh,
they're always
amazing.
Thimberchod, put some respect on Thimberchod's name. There is a canonical reason why Thimberchod is so big. He was captured and basically held chained in place to be and fed here's all the food you can eat, but you can't leave because we want you to power our giant forge.
Mm-hmm.
So he was sedentary and overfed, and that's how he got to be a big fat dragon. And everybody's like, he's so cute, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's cute, but that's a red dragon. This is D&D. In D&D, a red dragon would just as soon smash you as even be aware that you exist. They are rage-filled creatures.
Nothing more arrogant.
Yeah.
Nothing more arrogant.
And just because he's a cute, pudgy dragon, obviously doesn't mean he's not incredibly dangerous. I mean, you saw what he was doing to everything around him, just destroying it.
Mm-hmm. It was just funny that he was not quite so acrobatic, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Like when he tripped over the chain and he just starts rolling across the ground.
Well, it was just so great because, and without coming to it of like, with foreknowledge of like who this dragon is and all the stuff you're talking about. Meanwhile, I'm just thinking, like, I'm recalling like the Underground, scenes in Erebor from The Hobbit, and this elegant, perfectly, perfectly conceived Smaug, just going through all those underground caverns and going this way and that, and this is kind of built up where you see a dragon coming out through the opening, and it's like it's a dragon. It's like Smaug. Nope, it's not at all Smaug, and he's having to actually physically bust through the bricks and stuff to make way for him. So it was such a great play on what you might expect from other fantasy stories. And I thought that was very, very entertaining and very well done.
Yeah, it's fun that character of Thimberchod exists in the story, and was a fun way to because dragons are cool, and a lot of things have done cool dragons. Not every story has a fat, pudgy dragon. So it was a really smart way to make it unique, to put a dragon in their dungeon. And
then make it chunky.
Yep. You do see there's a black dragon attack that you see in a flashback. It was in the trailer as well, which I thought was really well done. Black dragon spits acid, and it's really cool to watch, like the people just dying from the acid spray as it flies by. And also, Sophina casts animate object and hits a dragon statue, and I think that is a copper dragon statue. I see, but I'm not 100% sure. It's harder to tell the metallics apart than it is the chromatics, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like chromatics all have like very unique horn shapes. Anyway, it is what it is. But I liked the diversity in the draconic forms, because the black dragon had different wing shape than the red dragon, which had a different wing shape than the animated copper. I want to say copper.
Copper or brass.
Copper or brass, yeah. They have that more like kite or triangular shaped wings, But yeah, it's really cool. How many spells can you name that you for sure saw in this film?
Ooh.
That I saw cast for sure. I mean, we saw. I just said animate objects.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Bigby's hand and an earthen grasp. There was a fight between Bigby's hand and earthen grasp. There was Autoluke's resilient sphere, where because I think Holga and Edgin got caught in the sphere. Time stop, counter spell, reverse gravity, blur. Prestidigitation is going to do like the fresh cut grass smell, which we'll come back to fresh cut grass here in a second.
Oh yeah, nice little
right.
little
Mage hand is probably was levitating things. Simon cast probably a wall of force to stop the meteor swarm. Sophina did a misty step. I saw a lightning bolt.
Yes.
There might have been a gust. There. Simon.
Alter self.
Alter self. Or disguise self. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Sophina was coming in with the finger of death spell there at the end. So yeah, that's what I can think of just off the top of my head. There's a lot of really fun spells being slung all around in this movie. And the way they visualized them was really fun. Oh, Green Flame Blade, definitely Green Flame Blade.
Oh yeah.
You know the guy whose blade burst into green flames? Everybody's like, well, I wonder what spell that is that he's casting. Could it be Green Flame Blade? It's good. It's good though. Like the fact that I can identify that many spells, like 20 spells, just off the top of my head, tells me that there really are digging into the existing lore of D&D, and they're pulling, those things out. Monsters that are specific to D&D, spells that are specific to D&D, locations, races. Like there's a Dragonborn, there's a Tabaxi, there's Aarakocra, there's I'm a little Bullywugs got mentioned, but apparently Marleman's new lady friend was smashing Bullywugs, which hey, Bullywugs are people too, but
yeah, they were. I think they were a half orc too, right? His new girlfriend.
Oh no, I think she's a human.
Was she human?
I think so. Just a big lady. But yeah, it's just it really did impress me that I could pick out that many spells. Whereas if I tried to watch the D&D movie from 20 odd years ago, like I can't really recognize anything.
Yeah. I don't think I've even watched that movie. Maybe we should do it.
No. Look, it's so bad you can't even have. It's one of those that's so bad you can't even have fun making fun of it.
Oh wow!
It's like it's just a badly made movie.
Yeah, that falls under the category of bad movies that I don't enjoy rewatching, because I always say, like, bad movies that I watch actually more accurately qualify as guilty pleasures, whereas I still get some enjoyment out of them. That's one of those things that, as much as I joke about, like Jeremy Irons, hammy, performance for the ages, I don't actually care for like any part of that movie, and like I think it would be actually physically painful for me to sit through it again.
Yeah, it's
like I'll sit down and rewatch Highlander 2, but I won't sit down and rewatch that.
But you won't do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, this movie was going to pass or fail depending on its tone over everything else. And those of us who play the tabletop game with any degree of frequency, we know that every game has a different tone than every other game. It depends on the players and the dungeon master. But if you want to paint with broad strokes, there is a tone that is sort of can be expected through a lot of games. Some are a little bit sillier, some are a little bit more serious, some are a little darker, but most of them are going to fall kind of around where this film did tonally. But like, how do you express that in words, trying to describe how should the tone of the film be? Well, I can go on a long diatribe about what the tone of D&D is, or I can just say it's that. This movie nailed it in a way that even other ensemble action adventure films don't. Because it seemed like, it's like the found family thing is one of the biggest tropes in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
You're a group of disparate people who find a reason to come together, to work together, and over time, it usually develops into a found family dynamic. It's one of the core principles of the whole friggin' experience.
Well, also, like, when you find a group of people that you want to sit down and play D&D with, that in of itself is a found family. So
you're not wrong.
So I would say, even though I'm not, that close to the game, it's my understanding that that's intrinsic to the D&D experience. So of course that naturally means that it needs to be part of the storytelling, and because that then filters into the games that people will play, because that's what they're experiencing, with the group they're with. And so any D&D movie that would tap into that particular emotion, I think needs, you'd probably get away with, doing a story that wasn't specifically about that, but I do think that it's, it's a good way.
So you're familiar with the Dragonlance novels, right, John?
Yeah.
That's not the tone of this film. The tone of Dragonlance is not the tone of this D&D movie. Like, Dragonlance is much more serious.
Mm-hmm.
That is also true of like most of the novels set in the Forgotten Realms. The novels are, generally speaking, super serious.
Which, by the way, I really want to see a full-on adaptation.
But it wouldn't be this. It would not be
Dragonlance.
this movie. It wouldn't. If they tried to do Dragonlance with the tone of Dad Hat, it wouldn't work.
No, well, yeah, but this is a good first step, because this movie needed to do a number of things. One is it needed to appeal to people who actually play the game, and to do all the things that you've been talking about, where there's all these references thrown in, but they're not beat over your head either. So it's it has to be done in a way that feels authentic to the world that but it also needs to tell a really compelling story on its own, because it could have all those references and still be a terrible movie. So it needs to tell a story that makes sense, and in doing that, it also needed to be, I think, as something that's trying to really start off a multimedia franchise in a way that past attempts just obviously failed to do. It needs to cast a wider net. So I think you needed a movie like this that is very, it's friendly to all ages. And so you make a movie like this now, so that maybe at some point in the future you can do something with the tone of something like Dragonlance.
Right. You're not wrong. Like, I do think they have set themselves up to be in a place where when they make something, when they make whatever's next, people are going to come into that with goodwill from this film.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did they need goodwill when this film came out. If you'll remember, there was a huge blow up a few months ago where, like, we literally did a whole stream about, like, Wizards of the Coast is screwing up real bad. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons and Drama, I think we called it. But so this brought them a lot of goodwill. I actually think they conceived of this movie as really just a 2-hour commercial for their tabletop role-playing game. Which, hey, like, a lot of people saw this and went like, that was super fun. I should try D&D. So it's effective on that level, I think. It made a lot of people want to try the game. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm still recovering from being sick. My ears are popping. I'm occasionally coughing, and I'm tired. But I love this movie so much. I was like, yeah, we're doing this. But yeah, I just like the way they reimagined certain things, the way they clung to the spirit of the game without getting bogged down in the, like, druids can't cloud shape into owlbears. That's not allowed by the rules.
So they didn't let mechanics get in the way of.
Okay, but, like, guess what else? Rule of cool, which is a thing that we see, that is a phrase that we use in the hobby. Like, rule number 1 is if you're having fun, you're doing it right. Like, any rule book is like a place to start from. Nothing has to fit all the rules. So, like, yeah, like when I saw the trailer and I saw that the druid turned into an owlbear, I'm like, nope, that's not allowed. Nope, you know what? Pretty cool though. Pretty cool. I'm down for it. Because guess what? This isn't a game of D&D. This is a movie. I'm totally fine with you changing things up to make it feel right.
Yeah, take some liberties that make for a very compelling chase scene, where they did the wild shape chase.
She shouldn't be able to shift that many times. Again, but who cares? It
was
cool
though. They're more like guidelines in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or as I like to say, we're just making this shit up.
Yeah. Oh, there is the future. Safina is terrifying. I just keep, every time I think about her, I'm like, she scares me so much. Maybe it doesn't help that she's a red wizard of Thay, who are sort of like legendarily horrible. And and they've been around for a long time in the D&D lore.
And I actually had to look up because I was interested in it, and this does seem to be the case because I'm coming from my very limited knowledge of the world of D&D. I was actually interested if the red wizards that she's a part of are different to whatever order Raceland from Dragonlance belongs to, and they are different.
Yeah, they don't exist in the same world. Dragonlance.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, Dragonlance is not even on the same planet, so to speak.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but they've been like behind so many things, like the lore or whatever, the lore of the Red Wizards of Thay. They're always doing some evil shit, So they're a classic villain.
Yeah,
classic BEG.
Yeah, but they've been a bad guy since the dawn of the Forgotten Realms setting. And to see them like in the story was cool. I can't wait for them to bring in the Zinterim.
Yeah, and seeing the Zek also being the DMPC that he is, got to do got to allow a lore dump for the Red Wizards of Thay and Zastam and shenanigans. Give you a little more information if you're not part of the D&D world. that you get this information dump, and it didn't seem trite or corny. It just really was part of the flow. So they did a great job with that. Oh yeah, thanks, Jolie.
Jolie is our dungeon master for Babe Squad. Me and Nessie both playing Babe Squad with a few other people, but yeah, we're about to fight a couple of red wizards.
Mm-hmm.
Wish us luck.
Wish us luck.
Wish us luck.
Schluck.
We're gonna need it. We're gonna need it. That thing's gonna be anyway. Back to this movie, not our D&D game. What else? Mordenkainen got a name drop. That was fun. The arcane seal of Mordenkainen was mentioned. Mordenkainen is another well-known wizard. Mordenkainen's disjunction is a spell. They went and got the Helm of Disjunction, so that's cool. Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound is another one. It's like a spectral watchdog thing. Anyway, Mordenkainen is known as being a wizard who specialized in like magical protections.
Security.
Magical security, yep. So it was cool to get that name drop.
Yeah.
What else?
Even Zastam, that was a big name drop too.
Zastam.
You know.
Lord Neverember got name dropped. And even see him for a hot second. I would love to. Okay, I would love to see a sequel for this, and there's no way I could guess what that should be, you know. But I would say I would love to see them go to Waterdeep and get into the Waterdeep underworld, because they are thieves after all, and the sort of like the big crime boss in Waterdeep is a guy called Xanathar, who is not a guy.
He's not a guy.
He's a beholder, which is a 4 foot wide ball of flesh with a big eye and a big mouth and a bunch of eye stalks that can disintegrate you and paralyze you. And yeah, it's fun. I would love to see I want to see a beholder on screen done well.
Yes, that would be great. And it doesn't, you know what? It doesn't even have to be this group. You know, every D&D adventure is a new group. Everybody roll up some new characters and let's go.
I want to see these characters again. I mean, I do.
Yeah, what I wouldn't mind seeing is sort of a blending of the two, because I think a neat idea would be to go on and tell some different stories, but bring in like some or most of these characters, sort of weave them in and out of different tales. And maybe the next one is more of a focus on Zank and the other, and then there's some other characters that come in, but also some from this one, and they could expand out the world and
I think the next one
tell a bigger story. But but either way, I would like to see these characters again.
Well, I could see the next leg of this story centering more around Kira and her coming of age, with her dad being, a little bit overprotective, but having her having to find her own way out into the world and decide how she wants to live her life. If she wants to follow in his footsteps as this, whatever the heck he is, he makes plans, or does she want to go and venture out on her own? And
yeah, I would love to see more Kira again, like that. Like, I think everybody did a fine job. Chris Pine cannot be underestimated. What he was needed to do to make this movie work. Michelle Rodriguez was perfect in this, but again, it comes back to Chloe. What was her name? Chloe something, who played Kira, was my sort of like surprise, my sleeper hit actor. I thought she was just so good. And I'm going to, here at the end or close to the end, I want to say it again. She was so good. the way you could tell that she loved her father, but was still angry and upset at him.
Oh yeah, that was for real.
Just so good. And when the way she delivers that, you're acting like it's not your fault. Like, I felt that. I felt that in my bones, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, AK, it is on a streaming service. It's on Paramount Plus.
Yes. If you get a chance, watch it.
And it's way better than it really has any right to be. You know, you think D&D movie, a lot of people are just going to assume it's going to be bad, but it's not. It's actually just freaking really good all the way around.
It's really interesting to me, my change in perspective over the years when I think, and granted it's a lot of years, but when I think back to 2000, 2001 when that movie came out, even if it hadn't been the steaming pile that it was, I still would have probably approached it with a sneer because I didn't have a fair understanding of what D&D actually was, just sort of that outsider point of view of and I had some growing up to do. I kind of that attitude of, even though I was a nerd myself,
but that was too nerdy.
But yeah, it was that holier than thou attitude. That's going too far for me. And I'm ashamed of thinking like that. But then to go on this journey where now I have an appreciation for what that means and for how you can become immersed in that and understanding how genuine the love for playing that is, and to also on top of that have a movie come out that's actually a quality film as well. It's just, to me, representative of a long journey that I've gone on, and so it was with a lot of happiness that I sat in the theater watching this with a smile on my face. So
it's just fun. Again, like at the end, it's hard to say, as we said before, is it a fantasy movie? I mean, it is. It's an action adventure. It is. Is it a comedy? Yeah, it kind of is. Is it a family drama? Well, it's got those elements too, a little bit. But like, it's above anything else, it was fun. It was just fun.
Yes. It was a
The action was fun. The comedy was fun. The characters were fun.
Yeah. And one thing that I didn't shout out, I talked about how much I loved like the practical effects and stuff. I loved all the location shooting too, and the set designs, and it felt very expansive in a way that if and I'm sure like for backgrounds and stuff, there's probably, I'm sure, still plenty of CG work that goes into it, but at least I could tell when they went out to shoot on locations, shots of our characters riding on their horses out in these vast landscapes. It really adds a lot when you do that, especially for fantasy films. Yeah, and I made an assumption about this movie before, like when it was coming out and previews started coming out. I thought it was going to be a sort of overloaded CGI mess of a movie, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. There's a lot of that, but there's also like a great mixture of live action elements and practical effects, and this is the type of thing I really like to see.
I also like that at the end they didn't have a blue beam shoot up into the sky. They had a red cloud come down from the sky that they had to stop. I actually appreciated the visualization of that too. I thought it was really cool and interesting, the way the clouds came down and turned into the red smoke. And just there are moments from this movie that just keep sticking out to me, and one of them is Safina seeing everybody running out of the Coliseum and screaming, "No, no, no!" Just her delivery, in that moment, it just chills me. Like, the actress is not a very large lady. You know, she's not physically imposing, but she's terrifying every time she wants to be. The only time she's not terrifying is right at the very end when they finally kind of get one over on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you see this person just from the beginning, and you're like, "Ooh, that's one to look out for." And then you just realize how deep and dark she actually is. She had been pulling the strings from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I had wanted to make some kind of a connection to Raceland, because the way she comes in that prologue or flashback, what have you, the way she joins the group, and she's this dark figure with magic and stuff. It was very Raceland-esque, of like, it doesn't seem like we can trust her. And of course that's borne out in just the few minutes that we see then. But yeah, no, I love those types of stories where you've got this, extremely powerful individual who, you're not sure if you can trust or not. So if anything, I would have liked to see more of that section. I understand for the purposes of this movie, it's just backstory that we need to be filled in on. But I always find that angle very interesting. Probably why going back to talking about the Dragonlance books for a second, probably why my favorite of the books was the second trilogy, which is all about Raceland and his machinations, because those types of characters who are, who you think you can trust, but actually they're interested in their own dark designs. Like that's always really fascinating. Okay, sidebar over.
No, you're fine. I've actually running out of energy due to being sick and having my sleep schedule is thrown way out of whack, because I had like a overnight party that I was at just a couple of nights ago, working and coming off being sick. I'm tired, and I'm kind of said what I need to say about this movie, and it's shorter than I thought, but like, it's fantastic. It's great in every way. Chris Pine makes me laugh and cry. Michelle Rodriguez makes me pump my fist and cry.
Oh, and by the way, in the beginning, when there's not the very beginning, but at that point where they're after Hugh Grant reveals himself and they're about to get executed, and he goes to Michelle Rodriguez, he's like, "You got this?" And she's like, "Well, I know you don't."
I know you don't.
And then he spends the whole time trying to get
out of the
and then he's like, we so got this. That's his bardic inspiration going out, by the way.
Yeah. It was subtle, but if you look closely, several times during the film, you could see him giving out
bardic inspiration. Yeah, and talking someone, that's him throwing out his bardic inspiration.
That's actually, and there was another point I wanted to touch on before we go, was I loved that, even though like Simon gets on him about this, it was one of the things I liked about him was the fact that he believes in everybody, like when they don't believe in themselves, and Simon gets mad at him. It's like, we can't do these things, but still, you got us to try and do them, and it is maybe sometimes to their detriment, but he has faith in his found family. So yeah.
What does he bring to the table? That's what he brings to the table. He brings the fact of bringing everyone together and helping them to be the best of them they can be.
And when it really comes down to it, he will slap you with a lute.
He will slap you with a lute.
He does that a few times throughout the film.
His weapon of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's wrap this up. So
Yeah, I'm losing my focus, y'all. I'm tired, but God, I loved this movie. I want there to be a sequel. I don't care if it's some of the characters, if it's Zank. You just do it. It was good.
Yeah, just do it.
And like follow the formula, deviate a little bit. I want to see eventually a Drizzt Do'Urden TV show. That's what I want. I would love to see Dragonlance adaptation as well, but I feel like that's better for a television show than a movie. Because, like, none of the okay, so Elminster is a character, an established character. Lord Neverember is an established character, but none of the characters, none of the leads in the film, they were made up for the movie. All of them were made up for the movie.
Yep.
So they're not playing Raistlin, who has an established story, or his brother Caramon, or Tanis, or any of those at Goldmoon, or any of those others,
Oh, but see, now we're talking about. I really do want to see that as a television series. I just
same actors play different characters.
Yes.
See, that was a joke. That was a joke we were having before we saw the movie. Like, is somebody going to die and then that actor will show up as a different character in the next scene? Because that would have been hilarious. But
that would have been
they weren't making that kind of meta joke. Like, honestly, if there are meta jokes, they're subtle enough where you have to like the hither thither staff. That's not a thing in D&D. That is something that some dungeon master was like, they destroyed my trap, the bridge fell down, we have to get to the other side. I got to figure something out to move the story along. Yeah. But it would be funny, but like it seems like that's not the tone they're going for, which is
and it's what I said before. You needed to make this completely accessible to an audience that doesn't know anything about D&D. So that kind of a joke might be lost on
a bit too over the top.
Yeah, like guilty Undertaker.
All right, guys. I don't know what we're doing next week, John. What are we doing next week? It's just you and me next week.
Oh, it is? Shit.
Episode 200 is approaching very fast.
Oh, God.
I believe this is episode 197.
Wow.
So, why don't we get Jolie to come on and let's finally do Jurassic Park?
Okay. For next week?
Yeah. What do you say, Jolie? You down for that?
Jolie, you want to come talk about Jurassic Park next week? And yes, you can talk about ladders and trees. Not the whole time, but you can definitely talk about it. Think about it. I'm going to say that's probably a yes. It'll be fun. Okay, hey, I'm down. Cool. Jurassic Park.
There we go.
And I don't have any idea what we're going to do for episode 200, but it's coming really quickly. So y'all think about it, okay? Until then, guys, I need to wrap it up. I can feel myself fading out really fast. All right. There is some talk of jumping on Zoom. I think I'm going to jump on Zoom for a little while because I don't have to, like, lead the conversation there. You know what I mean? But this was a fun conversation. I really was looking forward to this one, especially because the movie is I just had so much fun with it. Again, it could have flopped. It could have failed in so many ways. The fact that it didn't just fills me with joy because I have stake in this one. This is my, like, D&D is my big hobby. It's the thing. It's the OG nerdy thing that I was ever into. Played my first game of D&D when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it never really stopped.
No, I'm glad I really enjoyed it because I know you were interested to see what my reaction would be, and yeah, no, I thought this was a lot of great fun, and
Good.
yeah, no, it's been a good couple of weeks for just like really good fun popcorn movies because I went to see Guardians 3 and shockingly loved that to pieces and then saw this and enjoyed it very much. So yeah, it's been a good break from usually I get all intense and about the movies I see where they got to be like dark, gritty dramas and stuff like that, and so it's just been a really fun, couple of weeks of going to the movies and having a blast.
Right on, man. Well, I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, John. Nessie, we talked already, and I know, we've been like Jonathan. Jonathan is a freaking legend. Like, what? But yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll come back next week, and I guess it's Jurassic Park next week.
Yep.
I wish I was here. I love it.
I'm sorry, Nessie. We can't wait for you for everything. We will wait for you for 200. We'll take a whole week off if you can't make it. We're gonna. You got it.
But I will say just some final comments of the stream. Like, this is what I love. I love it when it's the three of us because this is when it feels right when it's the three dragons together. So I love you guys.
I'm also going to say 200 schedule wise is going to fall on Father's Day. So why don't we take Father's Day off and then we'll do 200 the week after, and Nessie, I think that's a week where you're supposed to be here anyway.
Okay, sure.
At least that's like looking at the calendar, and that's what it looks like to me. But yeah, so yeah, next week Jurassic Park, me and John and Julie, fantastic. Hadn't had Julie on in a while.
You guys will have a great time.
Yeah. All right, y'all. You know what it is. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
And be excellent to each other. Bye, guys.
Bye.